So what is this hypothetical, by the way?
Um, I wanted to hear your guys' thoughts on a rule change. Would you like to hear it now, or would you like to be surprised?
Cold open with
Sure.
it?
Um, so as you both know, we watch a fair bit of hockey in our household, and the Avalanche lost in a shootout last night, and I was talking to Carolyn about it, and we haven't seen many shootouts this year. That with the overtime rules the way that they are, there's not a ton of them. But it's cool that you kind of split the draw, but then the winner of the shootout gets an extra point. Just curious how you guys thought about 3 points for a win, no points for a loss, 1 point for a draw, and then 2 points or an extra point for a penalty shootout after a draw.
So no extra time.
No extra time, 90 minutes, draw, shootout for an extra point to have a winner, right? And so you still get the point for the draw. You're not taking away a point. You just get an extra point for winning the shootout, which is similar to how the NHL does it. The NHL just has an overtime, like a 3-on-3 overtime period before it goes to shootout. But I hate extra. If it wasn't 30 minutes of extra time, I'd be more of an advocate for it. I hate 30 minutes of extra time.
Yeah.
Uh, I don't like it specifically for soccer. I like it for hockey. I don't for soccer just because it's been that way for so long, and they already do a lot of different things to try and speed up extra time, right? There are tournaments like I think the Gold Cup, right? For like the first once you hit the knockouts until the semis, it's no extra time, just penalty shootouts and then go. Um, I think it holds a little bit more value, the shootout does in soccer. I think it holds more value. Like, okay, you've gone 90 minutes, you've gone an extra 30. Like, there is no way around it. Somebody has to win. Whereas in hockey, like to me that's an everyday thing, right? It's built into the everyday game, run a system, everything like that. For me, soccer, I think it's more unique and it's more almost prestigious. That's probably not the right word, but it's almost more maybe glorified to have a shootout in soccer because it's you need to actually determine a winner to move on to a tournament or to officially win something. Whereas with hockey, it's day in, day out type stuff. I think it would probably I don't see any added benefit to it.
I don't like shootouts to begin with. They're too nerve-wracking for me. That and I don't know, you're letting something that isn't directly game related determine who wins the game kind of thing for me. Like, if it's the NBA free throw, like you take free throws all game, that's fine. That's you can do that for a penalty shootout in the NBA. But I would like to see almost something like college football, where it's like each team gets one quote unquote drive starting at midfield. You got to go forward and get a shot on goal or get a goal or whatever. And then you just keep going until somebody fucks it up. Or like baseball, the runner on second rule in extra innings. So like you get one player that's allowed to be offside for the entirety of extra time. So something like that I'd be MLS on board with, but
I'll
Does it
go I'll
change?
go I'll go one step further. If it does go to a shootout, bring back the old MLS style shootout. Bring back that one. That's the one I want to see. If we're going to compare hockey with soccer in a shootout, you got to make it the same both ways. Just like hockey, just like MLS did it, started halfway, the keeper can come out. Yes, bring it back.
the European mind can't comprehend.
Yes.
Most minds can't comprehend that one. Does either of your opinion change if I say we would do 30 minutes of additional time, but we play golden goal, meaning contest is over as a win in the 30 minutes of extra time, and then if it's still drawn after that, then we go to PKs to determine a win in a normal season game.
If you lighten the schedule, either take international breaks out and just put regular fixtures in there, or like do like the Christmas break that Germany has, something like that. But you can't do it when you're playing twice a week every week for 3/4 of a year.
Yeah, I think with the amount of draws that are consistent within European football, that is going to be a very long season. Every game then is going to take, 3 hours instead of, two. So I think in a world where they're trying to do things correctly and they've implemented VAR, but that already takes a long enough time. Tacking on the actual stoppage time now, which some matches can be 15 minutes of extra, play time or whatever. To me, I think I don't see it necessarily a reason to have any more added time than what's currently there. I think the addition of actual stoppage time makes sense, right? That's time that there's nothing going on or that play has to stop. I get that. I think that is basically like your quote unquote extra time that's already being added. If you can't win a match there, then okay, fine. Nobody gets the point. Or everybody gets a point.
Fair. Just curious.
So let me throw this one at you, because Aiden and I were just playing EAFC earlier today, and there's a game mode in exhibition. I forgot what it's called, but when your team scores, one of your players gets sent off. So it's like you go up 1-0, then you're down a man. If your team goes up 2-0, then you're down two men. Like, that's something I would like to see. Not again, I would like to see it in like MLS, but that would be cool. I would like to see that. Just a wide open pitch.
Well, I was gonna say if you play like and that's what hockey does. They do 3-on-3 overtime, and that that's why it usually doesn't go to overtime or it doesn't go to a shootout because someone scores pretty quick. To end that game when it's 3-on-3. There's a lot of action, so you could go 8-on-8 to have it be a pretty wide open pitch.
So you could
I would almost go
you could
I would
sell me
almost
on
go
that.
7-on-7. I would almost go 7-on-7 in a half pitch
5-a-side.
or five aside. Yeah. I mean, that would be fun and that way with but I think the thing you have to implement would be the same thing that they do in hockey, right? With their substitutions and their line changes. You would need to have the flexibility to do something like that in soccer because then you're asking five guys from each team to go an extra 15 or 30 minutes, whatever it is. I think you would still need to be able to rotate based on who was out there when the original match finished, right? So you finish with 11, you can rotate those 11 in as you see fit, but they have the freedom to just kind of go on and off at will.
My take is I don't like the additional time. I like the ability to determine a winner that is not the same level of win as a win is, where a win is 3 points and an overtime or a drawn PK win would be two. So it's still not something that people are gonna like try for per se. They're not gonna they're gonna go for the win still because it's still more valuable. But and that's the difference between hockey is hockey wins 2 points and a loss is zero and an overtime draw loss is one. Whereas with the Premier League, you have 3 points for a win. So I think like it still incentivizes people to go out and win in 90. Doesn't decentivize that because you're still going after that. And then it gives a chance for, sort of the quote unquote the better team to win an extra point after the game to kind of still stay in the hunt, whereas a draw is punitive, right? I mean, a draw can be relatively disheartening after a hard fought game. But just a question. I just figured I'd bring it up to the boys because it's something that was on my mind and something we haven't really talked about before.
I like reviewing it. I like it. That spurred my mind now, thinking of other sports and things they do. MLB's got the Field of Dreams game. They play in Dyersville in the cornfield. College basketball, they play on aircraft carriers. The NFL has like their London series and all that. What's some kind of quirky playing somewhere you shouldn't that you would like to see?
I have an idea. Like whoever wins the league, their first match, it'd be cool if it was at Wembley. Kind of like a ceremonious, like you win the league, you get to play at Wembley sort of a thing.
Huge
Could be fun.
parade into the stadium through London.
Yeah.
I like that.
So for me, I would say, because I'm sure we've all seen photos of like these amazing pitches that are never played on, but have just like breathtaking backgrounds and everything. You have a list of like the top 20 or something. Whoever comes up with that list, so be it. But you pick which one you want to play at. If like you win the league or if you win a tournament, right? Let's say you win the FA Cup, you win Champions League, you win Conference League, whatever. You get to pick which place you want your opening match to be for the next season of like those destinations, right? I think for something like that, not only is it just going to be amazing to play in an environment like that with these breathtaking views in the background and whatever, but you're also expanding world football, right? A lot of these places are not known for having powerhouse teams or leagues or players, right? It's like some of the most ridiculous places you've ever seen, and you'd have no idea they exist. I think it helps just kind of expand and grow the game a little bit more to be able to bring big teams like that and have them go play at these, kind of exotic places.
And I like both of those. Parker, mine's kind of along your lines, and it's I guess Matt a little bit along yours too. Whoever the like golden player of the year is from the previous year. So for example, Mo Salah. The next year, their first game is at the stadium of the youth academy he graduated from. So kind of like giving money back to the grassroots thing, but also kind of like the Little League World Series ish kind of thing. So he's got then Liverpool have to play their first match at whatever Egyptian club he graduated from, right? I don't know. It's cool to see things where they're not supposed to be.
The other thing that's been talked about, and I don't know how I feel about it, but I figure I bring it up, is the some sort of like all-star game, all-star break, skills contest, or a true all-star game. I know that's a super American take of me, but it'd be interesting to see some sort of like Premier League all-star something or another.
How would you break up the All-Star game? Because like they don't have East-West or
No, I know, and I like I said, I don't know if I love the idea yet either, just because it is a super American concept. I don't know how well it translates into soccer, but you could do captain pick, which has been something that has kind of translated over into the NBA, where they had Team Giannis and Team LeBron kind of a thing. You could do a captain pick, but I just think like the skills contest stuff would be really fun. Just like who can hit the most crossbars from a set spot, right? Out of 50 tries, like who can hit the most crossbars. The NHL All-Star break, like their skills contests are super fun. And they put like a cash prize on the line, just just so Connor McDavid can win it every year because he's ridiculous. But I think like watching them like skate and do really intricate movements and like their accuracy stuff. They have a who can hit the hardest slap shot speed contest. They have like 8 or 9 contests. I think something like that could be pretty fun.
Welcome to Pod After Dark. No, we don't do that anymore. Welcome to the Flag Stays Down podcast. No, I like the cold open this week. That was a good one. You got me, Andy. You got Parker. You got Matt. Full house following a 1-1 draw with Crystal Palace. But Parker, how you doing?
I'm tired. It's been a long couple of days. I was in Ciudad de Mexico. I was in Mexico City for a few days. So shout out to little bro who made the plunge, did the thing, got married, and it was a beautiful ceremony. It was a wonderful weekend. And then an adventure home. Quite the adventure home. I was supposed to land in Denver at like 2:20 p.m. So that means I started my travel pretty early. I had to connect through Houston. I had a car come pick me up at 5 a.m., which is not advisable after a wedding, but 5 a.m. start time to my travel, and got on the plane, got off the plane, had to go back through customs, had to go back get my bag, had to rebook flights, and ended up getting back around 11:30 last night. So it was like a 19 and a half hour travel day from leaving the hotel to by the time I got home. So that was tiring. It was a lot, but no, it was a great weekend. So had a ton of fun. It was a well attended wedding for it being in Mexico City over a holiday weekend. So that was really cool to see everybody kind of show out for little bro. So it was fun. We had a great time, and yeah, good weekend. Matt, how you doing, man?
Much like you, I am tired, but not for the same reasons as you. I was just busy doing house projects, pretty much from Thursday until 7 o'clock tonight. Um, so I was painting our guest bedroom, because eventually my wife is going to be doing a home birth for our next kid, so sometime in late April, early May. And as a part of that, she wanted the room painted a different color, so we got that squared away. And eventually that will become my son's room. So we had to get all that squared away. So my dad was over helping paint and do all that stuff. And then today I finally completed his new bed. So it's fully assembled and he is currently sleeping in said bed. So we're gonna see how he does tonight. Hopefully he finally sleeps through the night. You never know, but I'm not expecting much. But yeah, so we were busy kind of from 9 a.m. until 7 o'clock p.m. when my dad left, and then yeah, it's been a weekend. It's been a long few days of just grinding and getting stuff done around the house. So yeah, and then I'm back to work tomorrow. So my 3 weeks off is officially over. But just because I'm back in the office doesn't mean I'm actually going to start working until probably Wednesday. So I'll be playing catch up for the first 2 days, answering some questions, and then finally get back into the swing of things. I need time to ease back into it after being off for so long. So, but yeah, all's good, man. All's good. Collins, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. We just finished Christmas. My sister, her husband, and their daughter weren't able to make it up for Christmas itself, so they came up this weekend, which is good. Got to take brother-in-law to Highbury for the Chelsea game. Kind of a disappointing one to take him to, but no, still good. But they are heading back to Kansas City tomorrow, which is getting pelted with ice and snow and rain right now. So I just wish them safe travels, but glad the holidays are over is what I'll say.
Just start calling you Vince Vaughn the way you rocking 4 Christmases.
Oh, I wish it was 4 Christmases.
I'll say you're up to what, 7?
Yeah, just about. Broken families. Anyways, boys, 1-1 draw. Cole Palmer starts the year off right with a goal, but the script was written late goal for Palace as we could not put the ball on target at all throughout the match. What are your guys' first thoughts?
Sparks. I'm not going to have much to offer on this since I didn't get a chance to watch it.
Yeah, so I watched it in 2 parts due to fun travel day. Being on planes without Wi-Fi and whatnot. So I watched like the first 40 minutes live, and then I rewatched those 40 and then finished the game out earlier tonight. So it was not great. I feel like we're becoming really one-dimensional, and we have a lack of, like you said, Collins, getting the ball on target. A lot of errant passes, a lot of like trying to pick the perfect pass, which is a symptom of our team that was like 3 or 4 years old, where we always looked for the glory pass and the glory goal and not put balls on target. There's a few problems I saw, but I mean, overall, it's really disappointing. We can't just go through Cole Palmer and get goals. Like we have to find other ways to score. I'm happy he's scoring, but it feels one dimensional in the sense of like it feels like if he's not scoring goals, then we're not scoring goals. Which, like I said, the last 4 games we've got 2 points out of a possible 12, and 2 goals, which are both Cole Palmer goals. So something's got to change in the way we kind of set up our attack. And I thought that there was some decent opportunities in the first half, and then maybe 1 or 2 in the second half. But once again, man, I thought we got completely outplayed in the second half. Palace had the better chances all second half compared to us. They were the ones asking the questions. They were the ones knocking on the door, and then they broke it down in the 81st, 83rd, something, I don't know, minute. And they got their goal. Cole Palmer error that turns into 3 well played balls, and I don't really think it was our defender's fault. I don't think it was Sanchez's fault. I think it was 3 solid passes on a break that leads to that. So it was disappointing. There was a lot of moments that could have been in this match that weren't. And I'm not saying that the ball didn't bounce our way, but it was the lack of that like last pass, lack of like that killer instinct. Jackson had that ball where it was a free kick, a spot kick, got headed to him, and he couldn't put it on target. Again, Jackson was through, and he kind of dragged a shot just inches wide, but he has Neto on the other side. And I know that's hindsight 2020 stuff, but like some frustration points out of that. So, I think we'll get into it later, but I think this team needs a shakeup. The one bright spot for me was to see that Achampong was able to come in and not stick out in a bad way. He was able to kind of hold his ground and play solid football. I don't think he was great by any means, but I don't think he was bad, and I don't think he was a liability out there for us. And when we have Badias Shiel on a long-term injury and Wes Fofana on a long-term injury, I think it's going to be needed and necessary to have some depth at that position. So Palace isn't the most prolific attacking team in the world, but they're not bad either. So to see Josh kind of step in as a youngster, do his job well, I was happy to see that.
Yeah. So my takeaway was well, you took mine. Mine was Josh Achampong looking good out there is what I'll say. He had his moments where he looked like he was 18 and making his first Premier League start, but for the most part, looked composed, looked confident. And my takeaway is that a lot of the reliable guys, a lot of the guys who we've relied on all year, are starting to look fatigued. And Cole Palmer's errant pass, which he doesn't make a lot of, leads to the Palace goal. Enzo Fernandez, just his passing was half a yard short pretty consistently. Moises Caicedo was not getting around the pitch the same way he normally would. Nicholas Jackson consistently, like you said, a couple inches off off of either side. And Levi Colwell with a couple lapses in judgment as well. It's the guys who play week in and week out every single week. And Parker, I know you're going to say, well, they basically have a whole week off every week. That's fine. But they're still on target to all play 38 matches and just about every minute of every single match. That's a lot in this day and age in 2025. That's weird to say. In 2025, we guys got to be rested, and we don't have the depth that the manager trusts, and we don't have depth that's healthy. So something's got to give here in January. Parker, you mentioned a shakeup. I think we need at least a 6, probably a couple center backs, some kind of cover, even if it's just recalling people from loan. Andre Santos looks real good, but man, the guys look tired.
Yeah, the one that like has kind of bothered me all year is that Cassidy hasn't gotten a trot at all. And I think he's someone that was on the bubble last year, featured a couple of times last year for us, and has looked fairly solid. And he seems to be completely, not in the manager's plans. I mean, thought Viega could have featured somewhere in there, but like, we had Gusto and Cucurella as our wingbacks, and they've been relatively solid pretty much all year. I just don't seem like it doesn't feel like we get the same kind of output from those guys anymore. Like the same kind of attacking threats from them. Like Cucurella gets forward, but doesn't really lead to much. Am I missing something there? Like it just feels like it's lacking a touch. Like we're not getting balls into the box. We're not getting the overlaps created that inverted wingback was kind of creating early on. I don't know if that's teams adjusting to it, playing us better, or if that's just like a reversion to how we started the year and not really executing in the same way.
Yeah, I was actually thinking something similar during the game. Um, that Kukurea wasn't attacking. He was playing that more traditional inverted wingback role. He was slotting in next to Caicedo. Gusto would slot in next to Caicedo. And the person making the overlaps on either side was Enzo Fernandez, which I didn't hate. Him and Jadon Sancho look real good on that one side. Um, Pedro Neto could have used some help on the other, but I'm not as down on the result and on how the team played because there were shit ton of chances, all kinds of chances, all game. There wasn't, there was a slight lull, maybe the last 15 minutes of the first half and the first 5 minutes of the second half. But outside of that, we were pretty consistently creating chances. It's just they weren't on goal. And I think every team goes through phases of that. We've seen Arsenal do it this year. We've seen City do it this year. We've seen Liverpool do it this year. Everybody has had lapses where they're not putting stuff on goal, where they're not picking up points, not scoring goals. And so it's just our turn is my thought.
So, couple things. So the Cole Palmer thing of him being like, if he's not on, then we're not on. It sounds similar to Collins, you'll love this. It sounds similar to Jorginho under Sarri, right? Everything was run through him, and all you had to do was stop Jorginho from making that one pass to break everything out, and you pretty much locked up the squad, right? That's kind of how Jorginho was for a while. You lock him down, boom, you beat Chelsea. Um, Cole Palmer, if he's not involved a lot, and over the last few matches, he hasn't been as involved as we're used to seeing him, right? Obviously, that's changes in the opposition. There's probably more man marking of him, and things like that. But we're seeing him kind of be not as in the forefront, just kind of more so making something out of nothing when he does get an opportunity, which it hasn't seemed like there have been a ton of recently. But I I agree. Like we can't just rely on him, right? It can't just be Cole Palmer and the Chelsea Blues, right? It's got to be a collective. Um, and I did see a couple just small clips, that through ball that Palmer had to Nico, like oof, should have had that one. It sucks, but sometimes it just goes a little bit wide. So be it, right? Those are good chances. But just looking at like the quick stats I pulled up, like 15 chances for Chelsea, one on target. That's not good enough at all. That's very bad. Um, and then Palace 13 shots, six on target. Like, yeah, we're shooting, but if we're not making the goalkeeper have to do anything, then it's kind of all for naught. Um, you know, uh, the idea around, and I've talked about it before, the inverted wingback. Like, yes, it's good, but knowing our defense, right? And obviously, what happened with Palace, it was just kind of very well executed. How they scored, but again, having Kukure and Gusto kind of a little bit more front opens us up, I think, to a more so a back three with one guy you pretty much trust, and that's Levi Colwell, who we know can be a little shaky at times with judgment. But then you don't have a second center back. Like you don't have somebody else that you trust besides Fofana, but he's out. You had Tosin and Disasi on the bench as well, and you decided to go with Achampong instead. Like that just says everything that needs to be said. Like the other two center backs that are on the squad, doesn't the manager doesn't have a lot of faith in them. So you rely on a capable 18-year-old to step in and play that role. And he did well. But I think it more so stresses some of the things that need to be addressed in the transfer window. I still haven't really heard much from the Chelsea side of, if we're interested in anybody who we might be going for. I haven't heard much, which in a scenario like this, with how we ended 2024, now how we're starting 2025, I would expect that we would be making a little bit more noise in the transfer market, especially in the early days, to address some of the needs that we have and that are, as we're seeing it, kind of glaring in our eyes.
So let's circle back on transfers because I think that's absolutely a needed talking point here. But I want to go back to the Cole Palmer and the Blues show. Is that not a part of the natural progression of a young team growing though? Where last year you had a team of, yes, expensive, but relative unknowns, all on the level playing field, playing together. The cream rises to the top. That's Cole Palmer. He becomes your best player. Naturally, what's going to happen next is opposing teams are going to say, hey, how can we shut him down? Look at the Milwaukee Bucks. Giannis, relative no name, all of a sudden becomes one of the best, best stretch fours, stretch fives, whatever you want to call them in the league. And then the game plan started to change for opponents, and it was, well, you shut down Giannis, you make the rest of the guys beat you. Struggle for a little bit, then it's on the Bucks to adapt. It's on the Milwaukee Bucks to figure out, all right, where can we get points from? Where can we get turnovers from? All that. We still have the youngest team in the league. We still have a bunch of guys who are still figuring out exactly what their role is under this manager, what their role is in this club, what their role is in this project. And so I think we're at step maybe 2, 3 in this project. And to become a title contender, the club's job now is to figure out, well, where can we score from otherwise? How can we pick up goals? How can we pick up key passes, opportunities, all of that if Cole Palmer is being shut down? And it's not a quick process. That's not something that's going to get done in a matter of 2.5 weeks. This is going to be maybe another month or so of, all right, Cole Palmer is being double marked. He's being man marked. He's being followed all around the pitch. What can we do from there? It's not fun for us as Chelsea fans, but I think it's something that's necessary for us to go through to get to that next point, to reach that next level. So I don't think it's a bad thing at all that right now it's the Cole Palmer show, because that's what's been given to us over the last year.
Yeah, it has. But again, you had Cole Palmer, who at the time was just, the hidden transfer, right? The last second, like, oh, okay, sure. Like he was that transfer. Like it was completely in the dark and caught everybody by surprise. And he turned out to be, an amazing player. But if I recall correctly, and Collins, you can probably correct me on this, but didn't Maresca say a few months ago, like about Cole Palmer and like, he's gotten to this point, he's going to have to, learn how to deal with man marking and stuff like that. I think he said that, a couple months ago, right? Um, isn't isn't that also for Maresca to help to try and help that too, right? So the point that I'm getting at, which this is not meant to start an argument, let me be very clear about that because I don't have the energy for that right now. Is that also on Maresca if months in advance he had said this, knowing that it was going to be coming, and then when we start talking about Cole Palmer and everybody else having to kind of rise to the occasion and get better, where can you find goals? Where can you find passes and stuff like that? Isn't that also on Maresca to adjust with the knowledge that, okay, we can't run everything through Palmer now that opposition is, having these different systems around, whether it's man marking, double team, what have you? Isn't that also a little bit on Maresca? I'm not saying the whole thing by any means, but a little bit of that I think is also on the manager as well, right?
Yeah, and I think you and I are both saying the same thing. I don't think this is an
Yeah.
argument at
Yeah.
all, but I think that change has started to be implemented. We talked a couple weeks ago. Cucurella scores that headed goal. Was that Spurs he scored against? I can't remember, but 3-4 weeks ago, And all the players came out and said that was something that Maresca hammered home this week. This is something we're going to be able to exploit. I think these things are being worked on, but when a team has been so reliant on a player for a year, and that's what the opponent's going to give you all the time is, oh, okay, well, this guy's on a hot streak, but he's not going to roll with it continually. So we'll just, play off of him. Now the adjustment is being made by opposing defenses. Now the adjustment has to be made by Chelsea. And yeah, I think that process is already being done, but we're not at that finished product yet.
Yeah, I just haven't seen a difference in how we play. So I don't see what we're doing differently. Like, I don't see any noticeable different. We're still trying to go through Cole. We're still only dynamic when we go through Cole, and everything else looks a little bit half-hearted. So it might be getting worked on. It's better be getting worked on, because I feel like if it is 4 matches have said anything, this is exactly what you have to do to either beat or draw Chelsea. You don't have to do a ton. You just need to kind of control, set up a low block and make sure Palmer doesn't beat you, because no one else is skilled enough to do it right now. So I haven't seen a drastic like morph of how we've played. I've seen a letdown of how we've played. I don't, it might be one of those you get worse before you get better situations, but I feel like the brand of football we've been watching is more uninspired than inspired and adaptive.
So let me turn it to there on just this last match in Palace. Did you not see more wing play than we've seen in previous weeks? Neto driving with the ball, Sancho overlaps with Enzo, putting balls into the box. That it didn't seem as Cole centric. Yes, I know Cole Palmer was the scorer, and I think that's a big driver behind this conversation. But there was a lot of other pieces moving there. You did have Enzo crashing the box occasionally. You had Caicedo creeping at the top of the box there. Noni Madueke, when he came in, was terrible again, so I'm not even going to include him in there. But Nico Jackson trying to make runs around. To me, it seemed like a diversified approach that just wasn't getting the results.
Yeah, and again, it might be we get worse before we get better if this is kind of a new age kind of thing. And I think we did go down the wings more. I think our wing play is terrible, to be completely honest. I thought Sancho was all right, but I thought Neto had a garbage game, and Neto shot and had maybe 5 or 6 balls blocked by defenders. Like, he's very one-dimensional. He's easy to read. He got by. So he had 2 plays that, per my recollection, were good, which was one of the first plays of the game. He went down the right and put a ball into the box that Sancho tried to volley. Great ball there. And then later in the second half, made someone miss and drew a foul or something, another. But I thought he was bad. Like, I thought he was not good at all. And he, like, every single time that his foot touched the ball, it ended with not an attempt, not a cross that was clean, not a shot on goal, shots that were blocked. And again, if you're getting 5, 6, 7 shots blocked, it's pretty easy to tell people what you're doing then, or people are reading you pretty easily then, in my opinion. So I thought he had a bad game. I thought Enzo was good, not great. I mean, he had a shot that kind of clipped up to him that he took from outside the box that was close to target, but not on target. I thought he was errant all game. I guess he was energetic, but with no real like purpose behind it. And then we already kind of talked about Nico. He had his chances. He had his 4 or 5 chances as a striker and wasn't able to connect on it, which I'm not going to give him too much grief about. There were good chances. One was blocked well. The only thing that annoyed me was when he tried to take that one with the outside of his right boot. That was a lack of judgment, in my opinion, where it's set up to go on your left and you kind of audaciously try to hit it with the outside of your right. So I thought that was questionable, a little suspect. Going for glory in a situation like that, not my favorite thing in the world. But again, I'm not going to try to harp too much on him for the game he had. So it just it's hard because there was a lot of promise in a lot of the attacks that like led to like literally nothing. Whereas if we're putting balls on the target, getting really good crosses in the box, which I didn't see a lot of. I saw a few, maybe 2, 3 balls kind of bouncing in the box or able to be attacked in the box. But man, for the quality that we have, we should be like pepper in the box and balls falling to us. And so I didn't see a lot of that.
Well, let's turn back to those transfers. I mentioned earlier my wish list. Matt, as you mentioned, haven't been heavily linked to anyone as of yet. The one I've seen is the center back from Benfica, who just signed a new contract to add a release clause to his contract. We all know how dealing with Benfica and release clauses go. But what do you think we do in January? And I'll preface it with the Wesley Fofana conversation. Maresca saying he's out for the season and then playing an 18-year-old in his position. Wes Fofana has come out and said, I'm only out 4 to 6 weeks. I'll be back in March. To me, seems like Maresca is signaling, give me guys that I want. Give me some guys I can trust. Let me do my thing here because the guys we have are not where they need to be. That's my take. What do you guys think?
How do you feel about a manager wanting players? Because I know how you felt about other managers wanting players, Collins.
I think we need center backs. I think we need a right back. And so if he's saying I need a center back, then I as a fan see that we need a center back. Cool. Go get your guy. Now if you're
It's
gonna
gonna
go
be interesting to see if we who's doing the negotiations. I saw that like Bali just bought the most expensive penthouse in London. So is Iqbali going to be boots on the ground here and forcing transfers to come through, or is this going to be a communal approach? I think we're going to learn a lot about what kind of say Maresca gets in this whole process, which others have not had.
So the stuff with Wes is interesting. And Collins, the way that you laid it out, I want to clarify something. So when you said Enzo's like, I need players I can trust. I don't think he doesn't trust Wes. I don't think he doesn't trust him as a player.
Oh, no. I'm sorry. I was paraphrasing. I wasn't talking about Wes.
Yeah. He's just, well, but in any event, he's just not out there. Like, yes, I trust him, but he's never available because he's been injured for basically the last 2.5 seasons collectively. He's a good player. He makes us better, but he's not available. So I wonder if this is one of those like, hey, you've had too many injuries. We have all this money sunk into you. Like, you got to find something different because you're just not available to us. I wonder if it's something like that maybe is going on. But in any event, I'm curious to see who we go out and get. I again, we haven't heard Chelsea's name tied with really anybody in the transfer market so far. Maybe there's stuff going on behind the scenes, but I'm curious to see who we go after. And I really desperately hope that we get experienced players, not what we've been doing, right? The South American lottery, right? I hope we don't go that route. I hope that we find experienced players who can come in right away into the first team and stabilize or at least gel with what we have and make our team better. That's kind of where I'm at and as far as what I'm looking for. Give me some experience for this very youthful team, somebody to kind of help stabilize everything.
Matt, do you have anybody in mind?
No.
Fair enough.
Well, I have no idea what the transfer market looks like. I have no idea, where we'd even start to look. It's January, so we know prices are going to be inflated. How much are we actually going to be willing to spend on somebody that we think can step in and play, first day?
I've seen Mark Gahey's name be thrown around a little bit as a potential replacement. A return to Chelsea for him. It's been a while, so that'd be kind of an interesting one to see. But you're right, Matt. I think that there hasn't been a ton of smoke on a lot of names out there. Like a lot of the people that were rumored last window haven't really been rumored or talked about in the same way. Yeah, I know that these conversations are going on, which I think it's all right. Um, I think it's okay that we don't know what's going on right now, because bidding wars happen when the Fabrizios of the world start chattering and people get anxious when someone that they're looking at or have on their watch list might go to a rival. So when United and Arsenal and City are looking at somebody, then Chelsea automatically want them. Or we've all kind of um, heard some of that. It looks like this window might be more around selling than it will be around buying. So I wouldn't be surprised if we let more people go than bring people in. But I think what you guys said around center back makes a lot of sense. I just think that the plan isn't to win this year. The plan is to compete next year and win the year after that, would be my guess. If we're looking long term, the plan is to take top 4 this year, hopefully compete for the title next year, and then really be rocking in a few. So I think we still go youthful. I think we still bring in people who are around that 19 to 23-year old range of folk, and we keep building. And the cool thing about this plan is when you have a core of Palmer and Caicedo and Enzo and Malagusto and Colwell and a couple others, they're going to be in the team, playing consistent first team football for 3, 4, 5 seasons. So they're going to feel seasoned at that point, and they're going to feel like vets. They're still only going to be like 26 years old, but they're going to have a whole lot of experience playing together and playing just in the Premier League and Champions League and Conference League and all those things together. So I think you continue on the path that you are, considering what our runway looks like and what the timeline for when we need to be great will be.
Yeah, and I think you get probably one band-aid in this market. Probably an older guy, somebody who can provide a little leadership. I would like to think that would be a center back. My gut is telling me it's going to be somebody from Serie A, since a lot of those clubs are cash strapped. Italian defenders, not a not a bad pool to choose from. Now I have no idea who that would be, but that's just a gut feeling for me. Antonio Silva is the player I mentioned from Benfica earlier. He's a center back, just added a release clause to his contract, which if you're a Benfica player, that means that you're going to be sold in the next probably 6 months, 12 months. So would not surprise me to see him go. And again, I would like a 6. I've seen Caicedo look a little fatigued. I've seen Enzo look fatigued. Lavia is going to be out for the foreseeable future. That's a position I would like somebody who's Premier League proven. Now, who do you go out and get? I have no fucking clue. But I think there's got to be somebody who can at least service as a backup rotational piece, somebody to come on in the 70th minute, to give one of these guys a breather. But outside of that, I think depth wise, when everybody is clicking, when things are back to normal, I think we're fine everywhere else on the pitch.
What do you want to do about left winger?
I think between the two wings, it's a 3-man rotation. And then when you add the
2, right?
Yep. I think it's Neto, it's Sancho, Madueke on the other side. But we've seen now that he can play the left as well. Well, can be in on the left, not that he can necessarily play it, but Nicholas Jackson could in a pinch play on the left. When you get the Conference League, FA Cup back, Tyreek George can play over there. But I think for the foreseeable future, until Mudryk is back, it's 3 players rotating between 2 wing spots.
So
go ahead.
Let's say one center back that I'd be interested in, and this is going to be a throwback for our old FIFA days. Yeah. So one that I would be curious about would be Jonathan Tah. He would be interesting. He's been at Leverkusen for a while. He's 28. He's been in the Bundesliga for a long time. So he's got experience. I think he's out of contract in June of this year. So it'd be interesting I think the timing would make sense. I think Transfer Market has him listed at, 30 mil. Um, so I think that'd be a fun one just to go out and see. And maybe if you spend that kind of money, like it's not egregious, right? Given prices we've seen in world football, that's hardly anything. Um, but I think he's somebody who could be a solid center back for us. And kind of help with the young crop of center backs that we have. He could help out, a Levi, a Wes, An Champong, right? He could help out those guys, help them grow, and at the same time, he's 28, so he's in his prime. It's not like, and you sign him on a 5 year, then he's there till he's 33, which we've seen people still be able to perform 35, 36 years old, right? So it's not out of the realm of possibility. To me, that one makes sense.
One I just looked up to, someone we could recall, it would be Trev Chalobah as a band-aid center back.
Well, there are reports that there's no callback clause in his contract.
Ooh.
That becomes the issue with that. Alfie Gilchrist has a similar one in his contract. So kind of shooting ourselves in the foot there. Matt, I like Jonathan Ta. I think that's a solid one. Parker, is anybody else we have on loan that you would call back as depth?
Santos would be the other one, Andre Santos. It sounds like Chukwuemeka might be on the way out, and he's someone that again hasn't featured. I don't think he even made the bench on this match. So if we're not gonna use these guys, if they're not part of the plan, then we need to get rid of them. And if Andre Santos is part of the future, then get him out there. Like, I think he could play where Enzo plays pretty well, and then give him a solid break there. He's not your true six that you're looking for, which I understand, but he's kind of that more advanced six that goes to 8 in attack kind of a thought.
Yeah, I'm all in on Santos coming back. He assisted today, I believe, in Strasbourg's come from behind win. Last I looked, he's got like 7 goals and a couple of assists and 16 appearances for them. So having a good year. One I would consider that I don't think he has any clause in his contract would be Bashir Humphreys. Center back. He can also play a little bit of wing back. He's fucking tall. We saw him a little bit last year and not the best, but if you're not going to go out and purchase a Band-Aid, you don't want to mess up the project, anything like that. I think he could serve a purpose. Now, is he better than anybody we have on the roster right now? Probably not, but fills a hole.
One other one that I know has been talked about, I think he's rumored to go to United, but he's kind of the man of the hour, the young man of the hour, is that Gyökeres guy. I can't remember how to say his name, but Gyoker something.
Oh, Victor Gyökeres.
Yeah, him. As a young and up and comer, kind of a thought. I know we haven't fared well in that department, but it could be a nice striker comp for Jackson.
Yeah,
probably too expensive though.
We've been linked with him in the past too. I think the last time I saw it was about 75 million pounds is what it's going to take to get him. Wouldn't hate it.
How old is he?
I want to say he's like 23.
Okay, I was just curious.
I want to get your thoughts on if we go back to the PSG well for a center back. I've always liked Marquinhos. I've always liked him. He's very versatile. He's got all the experience you could ever want. 30 years old. That would, to me, would be a fun one. I think 40 mil is what he's listed at on transfer market.
Mm-hmm.
So
he's Brazilian. There you go. That's all you need, Collins.
Well, and another one that they have basically said, hey, you're not coming back, is a guy they just signed. Guy from Inter, Milan Skriniar. I wouldn't mind him. We were linked with him in the past too. He's a big bruising defender, but yeah, they've frozen him out. And at 29, he's probably only got one or two more transfers left.
Yep. Those would be just fun ones.
One other rumor I saw that I don't know how I know how I feel. I want to see how you guys feel. Someone rumored that there's a 200 million euro, it's like 168 million pound potential bid for Cole Palmer from PSG.
Why would he?
No.
Why would he go there?
He would get sold there. It's like,
Yeah, I I have I this is just my feeling, and it's PSG doesn't have the pull that they did even 2 years ago. I think not having Mbappe, not having Neymar, they've got a whole, you know, it's like, hey, you're gonna go play in this farmers league, and the only real opportunity you're gonna get is gonna be in the Champions League. Um,
but you would also make like $400 million a year.
yeah, taxes over a certain amount in France though are crazy. I don't know. To me, I again, this is me. I'm not playing professional football, but they're not as attractive as they once were.
I just meant more like not from Cole's perspective, from a fan of Chelsea's perspective. If they sold him for 168 million pounds, would you be all right with that?
Let me pull up the top ever transfer dollar amounts. All right, list of most expensive transfers. Let me see where I would put him. Neymar number one, 222. This is in euros.
In
Mbappe,
euros?
yep. Mbappe from Monaco to PSG, 180. Coutinho, 145. João Felix, 126. And then you got Enzo Fernandez as number five.
So we put it number two, right? Like if because it'd be 200 million euro.
Yeah, I would. Man, he would need to be probably 200 million euros. So more than Mbappe in his first transfer, less than Neymar. Even then, I wouldn't be happy.
Because even at that, who can you go out and get?
Well, I think you have a real Spurs dilemma at your or in front of you. There's you just sold your best player to Real Madrid. Well, let's do Moneyball and try to buy 7 players instead.
Yeah.
I don't think that works.
Like it's funny, Collins, I'm looking at PSG's roster right now. You mentioning they don't have the same kind of pull that they even did a couple of years ago. I'm looking at their team right now and I'm just like, who? I don't know any of their midfielders.
They have some good young ones, I will say that, but it's not crazy.
Like I didn't know that's where Marco Asensio finally landed. Had no clue. Don't hear anything about him. But just looking at this roster, I'm like, who are half these people? Their best players or most well-known players are all defenders.
Mhm.
I'm like, oh, it's not, the team that it once was.
Parker, what's a dollar amount that you would accept for Cole Palmer?
I wouldn't, for the same reasons you guys talked about. I don't think that there's players you can bring in to replace what he brings to the table. If we were in financial like dire straits and we had to like fund things, then maybe, if we were, if he was an aging asset and we needed to offload and whatever and wanted to rebuild. But I think the way that we're structured and set up, it's for the future, and he is like the talisman of that group. I don't think that there's anyone that you would want to get or want to bring in besides him. The only player that would probably be like a higher dollar amount today would be like Lamine Yamal. That would be like a younger, right? I think Lamal's what, 17, younger dynamite talent, proven on big stages already. He's going to be in the conversation for best in the world, if not this upcoming golden boot or with what the fuck ever the awards from FIFA are. Ballon d'Or, I think. Yeah. He's going to be in that discussion starting now for the next 15 years. Like it's so I think he's the only other one that's like kind of on that list of like people that you would want to fight to keep, of like these are guys you want to build around and whatever. I don't think that there's many other people that you would want to build around. And I think for the money yeah, it's a huge payday for Chelsea, who bought him for 35 and flip him for 168 or whatever. It's a massive return on investment. I just don't think that results to more wins. I think that results to less wins.
The Lamine Yamal one is interesting I because we have somebody on our team who fell victim of that trap. João Felix. Remember at one point his release clause was what, over 100 million? Something ridiculous. And
His
now his
first
transfer
transfer was
bubble,
126 million.
yeah, and now his transfer fee is like 10, right? Like something like that. I think that one's a little too risky just based on, again, his age. Yes, he's young. Yes, he's done well so far, but can that hold up in La Liga? Probably. In a world league, like a better top to bottom league, maybe not. Um, the one other player who I would consider in the same echelon as Cole Palmer right now, that would probably have a higher transfer fee, would be Jude Bellingham. He's the other one that I think if you can get him, you would go get, right? He wouldn't be a one for one replacement, but I think as far as the impact on the game, they're both in kind of that same upper echelon of young talent who can take over a game if they need to. He would be the only other person that I would consider.
Well, let me ask you this. This is the fourth annual January transfer market question for you guys. Would you go get Cristiano Ronaldo on a 6-month loan? Word
No,
is they're going to loan him out until their season resumes.
no.
Nope.
Fair enough. I had to ask. Tradition.
I have a question for you guys, because this is where this gets really interesting. We talked about other players. Matt, you just brought it up with Joao Felix. The other one we've talked a lot about is Callum Hudson-Odoi. Had a big ass transfer fee proposed to Bayern, and Odoi left with on a free, or for like basically a free. So when you think about it, like in retrospect, it hurts. Palmer's on a 7-year deal, which takes him to like 28 years old, thereabouts. If he's 27, and I guess what I'm trying to say is, like, what's the number you're okay with like letting him go for when he is towards the end of his contract? Because it ain't going to be that, right? It's not the likelihood that that number goes up from 200 million euros is unlikely, right? Like unless it's adjusted for inflation, right? Like just kind of like the where things are, because that 200 million euro puts him as the second most expensive transfer ever. And towards the end of his contract, I don't think he's going to be that if we keep him that far.
Is he putting up 50 goal contributions a year from now through then?
He's so that's the thing. Like, he might not be. I mean, like, I don't think we think of him as a flash in the pan, but we have seen players that look great. Reece James is another one. Reece James is a dude that almost was untouchable for a money amount, and now I'll be pretty comfortable seeing him leave because he basically doesn't play for us anyway.
So with Palmer, the only Cole Palmer I know is Cole Palmer who balls out. Yeah, ice cold, ice baby. If we're looking 6 years out from now, 5.5 years out from now, when he's nearing the end of a contract, and you need to sell him at that point. And again, I'm going off of the only Cole Palmer I've known. 250 million in his prime, putting up 50 goal contributions a year, and a year and a half left on his contract. You're looking at a better deal than you got for Aiden Hazard by tenfold, easily. Deferred payments, all of that. No, it'd be the richest transfer in football history.
At what age are you saying? That would put him at what?
7 years puts him at 28.
I have a hard time believing now that people are entering or are in their prime when they hit 27, 28, 29. I think a lot of them are kind of more in that 24, 25 age. So I think as far as productivity, if he is putting up ridiculous numbers at 25, 26, then you sell him because Hazard left for Madrid at 28. He was 28 years old. And we all know what happened with him at Madrid. It never panned out. He's been retired for over a year, right? And he's only 33 years old. To me, I think if he's 25, 26 and you get a massive offer and he's still putting up crazy numbers, I think that's when you look to capitalize on your investment. Just because I don't see I just based on longevity of the sport now is yes, you can play for a long time and be decent, but you don't see a lot of that with attackers or attacking midfielders per se. You see that a lot more with obviously goalkeepers and defenders. I think the attacking piece is a little bit tougher to do and maintain. Again, we see that very rarely, right? In a generation. I would say at 26, you reevaluate and see maybe what you can get for him. That'll give him, a year and a half or 2 years on the deal and then go from there. But I think anything past that would be past his prime.
Oh, just a side note, I forgot he signed an extension already this year. So he's here until
Oh, yeah.
2033.
Oh yeah, just like a year bump, like a year tack on or thing, right?
Well, that would be 10 years from the start of the season. So he added 3 on. The last one is a mutual option year. So
Oh, gotcha. Cool. Look, easy to say right now, obviously. Again, with the only Cole Palmer we know, I hope he becomes a Chelsea legend. I hope he becomes a guy that goes down as one of the best to ever, wear the jersey for us, like a lifer. I hope we don't ever have to sell him. That would be, that would be fantastic because that means that he is doing what he's doing on a consistent basis and better, right? I think that would be phenomenal. But it's just an interesting thing to think about when we've talked about guys who have had high numbers talked about them, and then their value kind of plummet, and you kind of look back and you say, man, we probably should have sold that guy before things got sour. And it's easy to look at Cole and be like, I never want to sell him, but we don't know what 2026 looks like. We don't know what 27 looks like. We don't know what all of 25 looks like for the most part, even though he started it on a hot note. So it's just again kind of a hypothetical. It's an impossible question to answer just because it's clearly dependent on his form and his contributions that he puts up in that time. But it's hard to ignore the second highest number in the world that's ever come down. So I wouldn't like it though. That's how I would feel. I would be bummed to see him leave the team. I like watching him play.
now, if anyone wants to spend that money to get me off the podcast, absolutely, I'm all for it. But make sure to subscribe, rate, review, all that good stuff. But boys, real quick, I forgot. Man of the match. Wasn't a great turnout on this one, as you can imagine, with the disappointing late result. We got 4 nominees. Parker, I already know one of them's off the board for you. We got Cole Palmer, Jadon Sancho, Pedro Neto, and Josh Achimpong. Where are you going?
I'll give it to the kid. He played well in his debut, so I'll give the nod to him. I wish he would have scored that goal. He had that. It wasn't a free header, but it was a clean header that he won at the back post, and to see him score on his debut would have been just phenomenal. And then it would have probably put that game away, which would have led us to 3 points, and we wouldn't be as sad as we are today. That's my revisionist history, but I thought he still played well.
Yeah, I didn't watch any of the match, so I will give it to the man, the myth, the legend, my father Mike, for helping out for the last 4 days and pretty much living at my house. So he's the man of the match for me.
You're the real MVP.
Ice cold Mike. All right.
Who you got?
I forgot who I picked. I'd have to look.
Who you got today?
Today, I think I got to go with the goal scorer. It's Cole Palmer. He was the only guy to put a shot on target in this game. So, but Josh played well. I thought Sancho played well. I thought Neto played well. But Cole Palmer's the only one who really played well for me. Cole Palmer is the winner at 50%. Neto and Achapong in second, and Sancho in third. Mike in a surprising fourth.
Late
Reason
ad.
why I could give
Okay.
Well, while we're giving fathers props here, my dad came with myself, my son, and my brother-in-law to Highbury. Doesn't watch a lot of soccer. Just every once in a while, text me like, "Hey, did you see Chelsea lost today?" I'm like, "Yeah, of course I did." He says, "Boy, that Cole Palmer has the ugliest haircut I've ever seen." I said, "Fair." So I'm gonna put it up on the poll. Let us know what you think. Does Cole Palmer have the ugliest haircut you've ever seen? But boys, any closing thoughts?
2025 is going just as 2024 ended. So I hope the remainder of this year goes better than recent form.
When are we back in the conference league?
On that note, unbeaten in 2025, FA Cup coming up next week after a week off. So, boys, I'm looking forward to chatting with you next week, and cheers in the meantime.
Cheers.
Cheers.